Welcome everyone. Hope you enjoyed Definition Please. My name is Matthew Campbell. I'm the Artistic Director of Denver Film, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this Q&A of Definition Please. Help me welcome writer, director, producer, and star Sujata Day, Ritesh Rajan, who plays Sunny, and Anna Kaja, who plays Jaya. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Sujata, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about the genesis of the film, the origin of the story, and how you got that off the ground.
Yeah, I'll take you back to 4th grade where I won my class spelling bee. And you think that's a big deal, but it's not, because there were only 10 people in my grade. And
So impressive.
And then I went to regionals and I lost in the first round on the word radish. I spelled it with 2 D's instead of 1. It was pretty devastating. But after that experience, I started getting really into spelling bees and watching them on ESPN. And I noticed that almost every year it was a South Asian American kid winning the bee or an Indian American kid. And even when we were shooting in 2019, there were 8 winners and 7 of the 8 were Indian American kids. And I just had that in the back of my head. And I was taking sketch writing classes at Upright Citizens Brigade in Los Angeles. And we had to write sketches every week. And so one of my sketch ideas was, where are they now, spelling bee winners? And if you Google them, they are all doing really amazing things. They're scientists at NASA. They're working on the COVID vaccine right now, and they're world poker champions. And so the button of my sketch was, oh, this champion happened to not live up to any of her promise, and she just lives at home and is kind of a loser. And so I just had that like 4-page little sketch idea. And then I did a Sundance writing lab in 2016. 2017, I went to the film festival for the first time, saw my friend's movie Gook, Justin Chan's film there, and it blew my mind. And I cornered him at his after party and I said, how did you make this film? I need to know everything. And he was like, I just did it. I wrote the script. I called my friends and family. We scraped the money together and we just made the movie. And I was like, fantastic. That's what I'm going to do too. So I started writing the script to Definition Please in 2017, and then just, went through rewrites 2017, 2018, kind of pitched it to production companies, got good feedback, but nobody was like, yes, we're going to greenlight this. So then in 2019, went back to Sundance, and Justin's film Ms. Purple was there, and I was like, what am I doing with my time and my life? I need to make this film. So then I just did it, and that was it. It's got the cast and crew together, and we filmed it in the summer of 2019.
Excellent. And Ritesh and Anna, how did you guys get first involved with the project, and what drew you to the characters?
It was a rigorous casting process. Hundreds of auditions.
It's funny, Suj called me. She was like, hey, do you want to grab lunch? We had previously worked on, we met a couple months before on a panel about sort of Asians in the arts. And so we met there for the first time. And then she asked me if I wanted to do a parody video with her. So we did a quick parody video on A Whole New World.
I want to see that.
And then Suj was like, hey, do you want to get lunch? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I was like, what's up? And she's like, so I finished my movie. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. This is awesome. So I thought she was just gonna like bounce ideas off of me and be like, read it, tell me what you think. And then she said, do you want to play my brother? So I was just like, I would love to read the script first. And then obviously I read the script, and it was amazing and it was fantastic. And it was just as simple as being able to play a character that was authentic, real, and sort of the mental health issue aside, just sort of playing an Indian character where I was able to just dial into the humanity of who the person was, versus like, this movie is about Indian people and all the Indian things that they do. And this is, we're Indian, like, you know what I mean? Like, and so it was just a real authentic person. And then obviously on top of that, to be able to bring to light sort of the mental health aspect of it all, which is obviously, I think, disregarded in a lot of South Asian families. So there was a lot of lot of things that were attractive about this movie and the role particularly. So
Yeah, absolutely. How about you,
Yeah.
Anna?
I heard someone say the other day that the best kind of award to get is the kind you didn't know you were in competition for. Like someone just calls and tells you you get one. So, and I sort of thought of this role at the time because it was just that simple. You know, I think my manager just called and said, "Hey, there's an offer in for a film for you." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's good news, but let me read it first. It's probably terrible." And then and Sujata and I, by the way, had met before at a gala that we were both hosts at, but very brief, very brief. And so I read it and I was just so pleasantly surprised. You know, I've played a lot of Indian moms, a lot of South Asian moms, and to prove that point, I've played Ritesh's mom in his TV show that he was on called Stitchers before. So we already knew each other and kind of had forged that bond. And they really are like, just sometimes you can beat by beat sort of predict how the character is going to be. And this woman was just so much more interesting and nuanced than I was used to for these kind of characters. You know, she was an individual. She connected to her Indian life in her own unique way and Western life in her own unique way. Her relationship with her kids was not the trope of, you know, get married and all of that kind of stuff. And you know, be a perfect student, but instead she just, you know, she really wanted them to be happy. She wanted them to get along. And she had a lot of warmth and heart and spunk, and I thought intelligence. So I was just really happy to say yes. You know, how often do you see an Indian mom on film, you know, smoke a joint with her daughter?
Touche. I love it. We're right there because, you know, well, you guys are in LA, we're in Denver, same, right? It's all legal.
It's all good in the hood.
Everything's legal on Zoom.
Yeah, there you go.
You don't know where we are.
Sujata, I mean, those are such wonderful compliments, and I echo them with the characters. Can you tell us a little bit more about that writing process of fleshing out these characters, primarily with your background in acting, being a professional actor before you put on your directing hat?
Yeah, of course. You know, when I came up with that really thin premise of, okay, this is about a girl who is a former spelling bee champion and she grows up to not live up to her potential. I wanted to answer the question, why? What are the reasons? Why isn't she, you know, an Ivy League grad and killing it at some kind of, you know, investment bank or, you know, McKinsey, or why isn't she a doctor? And I made those reasons to be because of her family and because of her relationships with her family, but also her relationship with herself. So I was just, you know, really pulling from my experience, my friends' experience, and me growing up in, you know, a pretty white suburban town near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But within that, I was also exposed to, I had a lot of Indian friends. We had 3 temples in our area in the region. So on the weekdays I was hanging out with my school friends, but on weekends I was hanging out with my Indian friends. And it was this great balance of, you know, I never felt like I had to choose between being American or being Indian. So I definitely wanted to portray that in the movie, where the conflict is not between, am I Indian enough? Am I American enough? It's more of a human conflict, and it's more of a universal conflict. So I grew up around these Indian kids who were under a lot of pressure, and you know, a lot of them were experiencing depression and schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and mental health issues that our parents on a whole did not know how to deal with, that because they were coming from India, where they were, you know, just pushed to be successful, and then they were coming over here, so they had sacrificed so much, and then dealing with these kids who had to them, like, Americanized problems. They didn't understand how to deal with it. So I would, my Indian friends would be like running away from home because they got a bad SAT score, or they were in too many AP classes, or they couldn't get into Harvard or Yale. And the parents would always be like, why did Anand run away from home? Well, because he's like depressed and he should be talking to someone. But we as kids, we also didn't know what was going on. So it's something that I wanted to focus on. First of all, the relationship between Sunny and Monica. I really love sibling stories to begin with. So some of my favorite indie movies have sibling stories at the heart of them, like Skeleton Twins and The Savages and You Can Count on Me. And I love indie film. So I wanted to make a movie like that, but that just happened to have an Indian family at the center of it instead of a white family. And that was the writing process included just all of these experiences that I had, or, people in my extended family had, or friends. And I just pulled all of that into the script, and it just flowed pretty freely. I was never really, wasn't stuck writing it at all. So it was a really fun process.
And you mentioned it a few times, but I'd love to have Ritesh and Anna chime in and give their thoughts about having this story and characters where, so many times you all are working in the Hollywood industry where you're pigeonholed into like the Indian character, like that's the primary signifier of the role. But with this, it's so much more deeper than that. And as you're saying, more of just a humanistic story where it just happens to be an Indian family, but then in conjunction with this mental health aspect. So how was that, like approaching that character? And I assume that you got more out of that, or had a more enjoyable experience being in that character's skin.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I answer that question, I just need to close the door. My roommate's in a meeting, so I don't want it to bleed over. Just give me 1 second.
I can start.
Go ahead.
Oh, that was quick. That was a quick close.
I think he heard me. I sent him a text. So. But you can go ahead, Anna.
No, please go.
Please, thank you. So yeah, it was definitely, I think, just as an artist and as an actor, it's just way more fulfilling. We don't have to spend our time, and I'm sure all of us have had similar experiences where it's like, let's do the Indian thing. And then they, the writers or the creators or the directors start asking you like, oh, is this what Indian families do? Is this authentic, right? It's because you have these stories being written by people that don't have the experience. And so for us, this was our lives, growing up Indian or South Asian. That's how it is. We've always had to balance our Americanness and our Indianness kind of per se. So when we were on set, we didn't have to spend really any time explaining or talking about that. And even in the film, we don't really spend any time explaining any of it. So it just allows us both, I think, as a viewer and as an actor in the movie, to really focus kind of on the conflict that's going on. And in this particular conflict, we have the sibling conflict. And then obviously Sunny has a conflict with his parents and with his mom. And, she's ignoring the fact that he has a mental illness, and his sister is just, she's torn between two places. And so it allows us to really breathe in that space and really kind of hit those nuances and hit those up and downs and get those moments of family and laughter. And then on the other side of violence and anger and sadness. And we don't have to say every single time, oh, look, there's another Indian person, or like, oh, who's that Indian person?
Yes, to everything that Tesh just said. Totally agree. Yes, it was freeing, and I don't want to say easier, but like righter. It felt more right and more fulfilling for sure. As you said, I'm South Asian, and my upbringing was not what one would consider traditional or the kind that you see on TV. So I just found it incredibly refreshing and just to be able to almost bring more aspects of my actual self to something, and then this is separate, but I think it's worth mentioning, you know, we shot in Sujata's family's home.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk about, you know, having an unspoken language, as Ritesh was saying, there, all of that was there. And then it was just sort of like you were being absorbed into this, the world that was already kind of created for you to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really beautiful and fulfilling, and just made the whole thing flow well.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Sujata, why don't you tell us a little bit more about like the production challenges, being a first-time filmmaker? You mentioned that you went through the Sundance Labs, and it just said that you guys shot this in your parents' house. What were some of the trials and tribulations of doing this for the first time in the indie setting that you had?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously had a lot of trials and tribulations, but we handled them all very well. So when I decided to shoot the film, it was late January of 2019, and I had just gotten a check from a television show that was like being returned. The rights were returned back to me, and it was a sign, because I was there, I was watching Ms. Purple, Justin's movie, and I was like, how am I gonna pull this off? And then I got the email about the money, and I was like, well, that's the answer. So then I took that check and I was like, all right, I'm gonna be first money into my movie. Great. I'm an investor. And then I got all the documents together, you know, I got a lawyer on board right away, and they drew up the investor docs. I had the lookbook, I had the script, I had the budget, I had everything ready to go. I had my producer, Cameron Fife, came on board. And then I was just looking for money at that point. So anyone I would meet, when I would have lunch with, I'd be like, hey, do you want to put money into the movie? And generally, you know, we're around a lot of actors in Los Angeles. We don't have a lot of money to just give people to make a movie. But they, you know, as Asian Americans and Indian Americans, they usually have friends who are doctors or in investment banking or in finance. And that's exactly what happened. So we would get connected to these other people who were also people of color who wanted to see themselves on screen, and that's how I raised the money. And that was really fulfilling, but also frustrating. But then we got our cast together. I was just texting my friends to be in the cast, and then got the crew together. And I think that's what was really important, is like making sure my DP, Brooks Ludwig, who was amazing, that we could pull this off. And we had movie dates where we were watching movies that were in the same tone as the film, and the kind of shots that I wanted, because I knew that on set I was not going to be able to watch playback. There was not going to be time for that. So I had to fully 110% trust Brooks in terms of what he was capturing. And then we, you know, went out to prep in May to Greensburg, which is my hometown. And once again, we had this like amazing community of people in Greensburg who just came together for the film. You know, my production designer is Caitlin McHugh, who I have known since 7th grade. And my wardrobe was also Rachel Velazzi, who I've known since middle school. We shot at a lot of my friends' houses and their friends, like my friends' parents' houses, shot at my high school principal's house. And, you know, went to just the entire community.
Wait, whose house was that?
Lindsay's. Oh, I don't think you guys didn't come up, because it was for the tutoring montage when I'm tutoring the kids in the beginning, and it was like a really nice house, and we decided to just use different parts of the house for the montage.
I was like, wait, when was that?
And that was really cute, because Mrs. Volrath, I still call her Mrs. Volrath, whatever. So Mrs. Volrath had set out like homemade cookies and popcorn and fizzy water for the cast and crew. And then she
crafty baby.
And she was a big fan of,
so sweet.
She was a big fan of Single Parents, and Jake was there. Jake Choi, who plays Richie, was there shooting kind of a small scene. And Mrs. Volrath was like, is that from Single Parents? And I was like, yeah, go talk to him, he'll take a picture with you. And so it was really this lovely experience where you know, all my friends from back home just came together to make this thing happen. And of course, my parents, you know, allowed the use of the house in the backyard, and they were really excited about it. So it was.
And the neighbors, your neighbors came and like they'd come out with like lawn chairs and a beer.
Oh yeah.
So, fun fact, in Pennsylvania, I guess you don't need permits for anything, for shooting, which is wild, because you know, in LA, if you want to shoot at someone's house, they're going to charge you like $10 million. So we had the night scene where Tesh is arguing with Jake's character Richie, and Richie drives off into the night. Basically, we were shooting it at 11 o'clock midnight, and I put handwritten notes on about 8 of the neighbors' doors. I taped them to their doors and put the phone number of my producer and said, if there are any problems, we'll be shooting for about 2 hours. It might be a little bit loud. And then Cameron got one phone call asking if they could be an extra in the scene. And then and then the other thing, we were shooting and people came out with their lawn chairs and cracked open a beer, and they were just like watching us shoot the scene.
Yeah.
And it was so great. It was just perfect.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I mean, the novel thrill of that, as opposed to LA, where it's like, oh, they're shooting again, you know, but the hometown affair.
And I just want to note, you know, just to the credit of the crew, we shot this movie very, very quickly. This is something that I always forget. We finished principal photography in basically like 12 days.
Wow.
Right? Which is wild when I think about it now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you had to have been really prepared before going into that, because you're wearing all those hats to turn that around so quick. It's impressive.
The only thing I ever remember saying to Sujata is, please let me have another take.
And I'd be like, no, it's great. It's great. We got to move on.
But it was just one.
I was like, bro, you got it. You got it. Trust me.
This year's theme of the festival is representation. A little play on words there. What are you hope to achieve with Definition Please? Not just with Definition Please, but really maybe having a broader conversation of South Asian American representation within media, within the film industry. Obviously, this isn't, you know, can't put it on your shoulders for everything to like rest on this one film, but what are some of the goals you hope to achieve within your career, both as a filmmaker and as actors, for representation?
I think for sure, you know, Tesh and Anna have kind of spoken on this a little bit. I believe that I personally, you know, like you said, I can't be all Indian Americans at once, and I'm just gonna try to do my part, and I know, and I know just from being out in Hollywood and what I've been auditioning for, I know that I just want to see more authentic representation, no matter what it is. So it doesn't have to be exactly like Definition Please, you know. I'd love to see more Indian Americans / Asian Americans go into genre. I'd love to see, you know, us in soap operas. I'd love to see us in rom-coms, just like kind of all over the place. I don't think we need to stick to a lane, and it's really exciting because I think it's starting to happen. You know, we've gotten like, you know, The Farewell, we've gotten Justin Chan's films, we've gotten Crazy Rich Asians, and I think there's more that can come out of that, and I'm really excited to see that. And it's a, you know, it's a question of, will we be able to do it ourselves? Will we be able to finance these stories ourselves? I know that Anna's writing scripts, I know that Tesh is writing scripts, and we're all telling different stories. So I would just love for Hollywood not to treat us as a monolith, because we all have such different stories.
Anyone?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think sort of from the actor's perspective, it's really, I think I just want to be able to educate the audience of sort of our authentic experience. Like Suj said, not all of us have the same experience, but there is a through line there. And it's sort of finding the variations. We see so many, different, we see the same formula for certain movies with sort of the mainstream audience or just like, white actors or something like that. But as South Asians, we don't get that opportunity. It's like, oh, that's already been done. So you can't ever do it again. It's like, doesn't make any sense to me. But there's thousands of rom-coms, thousands of mysteries, thousands of dramas that focus on the same subject matter. Just the people in the movies look different than us. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, why can't we tell those versions of our stories? And, it's not to say that those experiences are not universal. They're just different because they come through a different lens. Maybe, I'm first generation, my parents immigrated here. So the stories I tell are going to be filtered through that sort of lens, which is different than mainstream America. And so ultimately I just want to be able to have a voice, and I want people to hear those voices. And then in turn, they have the courage to then speak up and tell their stories.
Well said.
I want audience members to be able to see, witness, and appreciate the immense talent of that exists in every community, age group, ethnicity, ability, disability, whatever it might be, and for those people to be able to be, the lead, the number one on the call sheet, the heroes and heroines of stories, and I want to see that with directing and with writing as well. I don't want us to say, oh, the two household names, or there's now one household name of an Indian actor that we can name, or of an Asian actor that we can name, or et cetera, et cetera. I just, the variety is just, it makes us all smarter. It makes us all better and more enriched, I think.
Absolutely. Those are excellent answers. Let's basically about the time that we have, but I would love to let you guys plug what's the future plans for Definition, please? How can folks at home share it? Is it going to be released soon? And maybe final thoughts, and thank you so much.
I think we're all working on a lot of different projects. In terms of Definition, please, we are still talking to buyers and distributors, and hopefully we'll be able to announce something soon. But as of now, it's still on the festival circuit. So if it plays in your state, please catch it. That would be fantastic. And Definition Please is on the social medias as Definition Please on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So feel free to follow those for updates.
Excellent. Well, Sujata, Anna, and Ritesh, thank you so much. It was a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time and letting us have the film as our opening night film for the Colorado Dragon Boat Film Festival. It couldn't be a more perfect opening night film. So thank you so much.
Yay,
Thank
you
you.
for having us.
Thank you.